I want to go to Dave Dotson, a very good professor, author of the bestseller, The Manager's Handbook, at Stanford School of Business lecturer. And Professor, what's interesting here is when you hear union members turn up their nose at up to a 21% pay raise, you know they're feeling their oats here, and they're confident they can do a lot better than that. What do you think?
Oh, yeah. And you know, add to that, Neil, the comment there about how they don't feel like they need the President of the United States to come help them. I mean, they really feel like they've got a big hand here. And it's interesting how Fain and the UAW is handling the strike, which is very different. They call them stand-up strikes. And instead of the sort of gentlemanly way that we used to do it, which is the union would say, we're going to strike and we're going to go after Ford and we're going to do it on this date, Fain's got a very different strategy. He's just kind of going in and marching in and going into these micro strikes. And we have not seen that in 20 years. The airline attendants did it 20 years ago. They would go in and strike against a particular flight. And they called it chaos, by the way. And it brought the airline to its knees. This is really interesting. I mean, they've got almost $1 billion in their strike fund, which is enough money, but not a lot. But when you only have to go strike a few plants at a time, it's cheaper, it's more intimidating, and it's more disruptive because, as you just noticed, if you strike one plant, that can ripple through to other plants.
And indeed, we're learning as of this hour that Stellantis, the parent company for Chrysler, is now on the wires saying it might have to close 18 facilities. Don't know where they all are. So the spillover effect is real. What will the impact be on the economy?
Labor used to be a huge component of a car. So now it's a distant second to materials. So that will help actually the odds of getting the parties together again, because labor isn't anywhere near as big a component, which, by the way, is part of the reason we're in this situation, is because labor does not have the role that it used to have in the unions. But if the strike goes on for a long time, of course, it's going to have a huge impact on the economy, because right now we have this fragile economy that we just kind of feel like we've landed the plane, and you know, we might crash if that happens. But what really matters right now, in my mind, Neil, is what the public thinks right now. And it's interesting. In 15 short years, if you can imagine this, the public perception of unions has gone from an all-time low, never lower than this, 48%, to the second highest positive perception of unions since 1953, when, by the way, you know, Dragnet and I Love Lucy was on the airwaves. So we had like this dramatic change in how we think about unions. I got to tell you one other thing, Neil, that's interesting, is that at major business schools, the MBAs, who someday are supposed to be running these companies, think that unions have a positive impact on the economy by a 3-to-1 ratio. I think it's amazing.
Do you think, Professor, that's the fault of maybe some selfish CEOs? They are paid some eye-popping sums, you know, free country, whatever the market bears, I get that. But that a lot of these workers have quickly cited the fact that over the last 4 years, these CEOs have seen their pay climb about 40%. You know, they want the same. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering whether this sort of triggers other workers in other industries at other companies to do the same.
Well, we're seeing, as you and I have talked about on the show before, you know, the biggest set of strikes in the last 20 years. And I really do believe that certainly there's a part of it that has to do with economics, but there's also part of it just feeling like it's not fair. Like, I want my fair share. And it's interesting that these strikes started at places like Apple and Amazon, where the chief executives and the founders were making literally billions of dollars. So part of this is a sort of a sense of fairness. And you've seen that in the electorate, by the way, and you can't pull apart the strike with the upcoming election. They do go together. And you think about the vice both parties are in, because in Michigan was won by there's 600,000 union members, in Michigan. And the margin of victory in Michigan was 150,000 votes. You think that's amazing? In Pennsylvania, there's 700,000 union members, and the margin of victory was only 80,000 votes. So neither political party can go in there and take on the unions or push back on them.
Yeah, handle it delicately, right? All right, to put it mildly. Dave Dotson, thank you, Dave. Always good seeing you.